So we don't pay much for
Yeah, no.
We could, Lexi, your sound's gone bad. You're on mute. Lexi, we can't hear you.
Oh, so
Yeah. Hey, Lexi, the sound didn't work there.
Maybe because there's a lot of chatter in the room.
that's exactly.
I think because you're muted.
Yeah.
It's room volume, not through the laptop.
Okay, that was a bit better.
Get started in 2 minutes, everyone. We're just waiting for a few more people to join.
Yeah, so pretty much. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like
Yeah, but it's really like my. Yeah. My mom had moved to like court. So yeah, and now she's court. She's I don't think but she drives to St. Cook every day. Yeah. My mom used to drive every day to work. Yes. It's fine. With the traffic and everything. No. I don't. It's okay.
we might get started now, everyone. I'm just going to do a volume test because we've got quite a few people joining online. So I just wanted to check, Heather, now that the room is silent, can you hear me a bit better?
Yes, if you stand in front of the computer, the sound is good.
Okay, thank you. I'll hand over to Debbie.
Cool. Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Warm and Efficient Homes event. My name is Debney. I will be your MC for today. I am the Undergraduate Climate Change and Sustainability Officer here at the City of Newcastle. I'll start with an acknowledgement of country. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land where we meet today, the Awabakal and Worimi peoples, and pay my respects to elders past and present, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people joining us today. I honour our traditional custodians' connection to country and the care and stewardship they have performed in this place since time immemorial. Now some quick housekeeping. For those in the room today, please make sure your phones are on silent. For those online, can you please make sure you're on mute? If you have any questions, you can write them on the chat and we will get to them at the end. For those here today, bathrooms are outside next to that staircase. You will need a tag to enter and exit these areas. That's on the table there. If we need to evacuate, please follow staff downstairs to Wood Street in front of Quest Apartments. Also, this presentation is recorded. All of you will get a link to the recording tomorrow. Now, what is tonight all about? Tonight, we'll be exploring practical solutions to make your home more comfortable and warmer during winter. Our expert presenters, Sally and Lexi, will guide us through proven ways to keep your home warmer, more efficient, and more affordable, including home retrofits, behaviours, efficient electric appliances, and how to reduce your energy bills. After we hear from our two speakers, we will have a Q&A session. For those online, feel free to pop your questions in the chat and we will go through them in the Q&A session. Now, did you know that Australian homes are actually some of the coldest in the world? And it's often colder inside than it is outside. That's because our homes are incredibly energy inefficient. We've built big houses with lots of glass, minimal insulation, and single pane windows, none of which keep the heat in. For years, low building standards meant many Australian homes were basically what experts call glorified tents. And when your home leaks that much heat, it gets expensive. An inefficient home is an expensive home, and that's something a lot of us are feeling, especially in winter. The good news is that there are simple ways to turn that around. Energy efficiency is one of the fastest, cheapest, and easiest ways to change that. And it starts with the kinds of actions we're here to explore tonight. Now, our Newcastle environment strategy here at the City of Newcastle outlines our commitment to strong climate action. We have a net zero goal by 2030 for City of Newcastle operational emissions, and then also a net zero goal by 2040 for wider community emissions. Through our Community Climate Action Program, Empowering Newcastle, we're working hand in hand with residents to switch to renewable energy, electrify our city, and build a net zero future. We'll talk more about our current and upcoming programs later tonight. I would now like to introduce Sally Bambar, our first expert speaker for this evening. Sally is the Climate Change Risk and Resilience Specialist at City of Newcastle. She will be talking about retrofitting our homes. Please join me in welcoming Sally.
Well, I'd like to describe myself as a lapsed engineer. And when I bought a block of residential land 20 years ago, as a typical engineer, I decided I was going to design and build my own home. But having grown up in a 1900s era house that was super cold, I decided I wanted something warm and energy efficient. So I went and designed it, built it. But as with anything, I learned a few lessons along the way. The building is not by any ways perfect, but I am keen for others like you and those online to have a warm and efficient home like I have. So just the usual. This is general advice only, and professional advice is needed for certain specific changes for individual houses. Whilst every care is taken to ensure the accuracy of this information, we make no representations or warranties about its accuracy, reliability, completeness or suitability for any particular purpose. So what we always sort of say to people when you're doing any retrofits or upgrades, on our action plans, there's links to further resources. It's always good to do a bit of a Google, see those additional resources, read about it, seek professional advice where needed before you hit the go button. So I'll be covering retrofits. And if we look at winter heat losses, there's pretty much 5 areas. Through your ceiling is the big one. Now, there's a reason why in winter you go to bed with a doona on, because the doona keeps your body warmth in. And that's what, you know, if you don't have a doona and if you have nothing in your ceiling, all that heat is just going up to the roof and out. We also lose heat through the walls, the floors, there's air leakage and windows. And depending on your home, these factors might differ. So my home being relatively new, air leakage is probably a big thing. If you're 1890s, I would imagine that air leakage, but also potentially all of these could be an issue for you. And you will get a copy of the slides later on, so you'll be able to refer to them later on. So insulation is always what we start with because it is where you can have that greatest return on investment. You can save up to 45% on your heating and cooling costs. So insulation is both good for winter and for summer with a well-insulated ceiling and roof. If you do wall insulation, you can save up to another 20%. If you're DIY, although with insulation, you definitely do need to read up before you start putting it in. It can cost as little as $10 to $18 a square metre. So for 100 square metre of roof, you're looking at about $1,000 to $2,000. So not big in the big scheme of things. So in terms of priority, every house, the first thing you want to do is address ceiling gaps, and I'll show you some on the next slide. The second no-brainer for any kind of house is to increase or add ceiling insulation. So when I did my home, R2.45 was considered good. Now you want R5. And the easiest way to do that is I've got 2.5. I can go in, put another layer on top, and 2.5 plus 2.5, you're up to 5. So when I built, 5 wasn't particularly easily available, whereas now you can go to a lot of hardware shops, insulation places, and get R5 ceiling insulation. If you walk upstairs into the front of your house, chances are you're on piers and joists. So if you walk upstairs and you can get access under your house, you can then look at doing underfloor insulation, and that can be, you know, a decent investment. And if you're doing renos, you'd want to do underfloor. Wall insulation can be challenging, but it is something you definitely want to look at if you've got weatherboard or fibro, because weatherboard or fibro, you may as well just have a tent skin. But it's something, again, to consider if you're doing a renovation. You can do blow-in products. They get mixed reviews, but it is an option. But the issue with wall insulation, generally you do require to take off either the inside or the outside of your house to put the insulation in. So these are a couple of photos that I've accumulated along the years. The first one on the left is my in-laws' house. They had a leaking roof recently, and I went up there and went, oh my God. it seems like every bit of reno that they've done in the last 40, 50 years has meant insulation's been moved. It obviously wasn't put in certain spots. And so these, just a 5% gap can mean a 50% reduction in performance. So that's not, that image on the left is not what you're after. Then the image in the middle are from my home. So I thought things were pretty schmick until I took one of our home energy kits, which are available for hire, went round shooting at the roof on a hot day and went, why is there a big gap above my light fitting? It's a dangling light fitting, right? It doesn't produce heat up in the roof, so there's no reason for it not to have insulation. And when I went up there, there was just a gap. So that gap, heat is then oozing up through that gap. And then this is where we do with insulation, you have to be careful. When I went into my bathroom, there's a gap above my 3-way heat light fan combo, but there's a reason for that. That heat lamp is producing heat. You don't want insulation up against that. Likewise, you don't want insulation up against a halogen light fitting because they produce heat. So there are some spots where you should have a gap, but often the gaps on the left, 2 images, there's no reason for them. So if you've got those gaps, plug them up relatively cheaply. So then draft proofing, which was my experience as a kid. I swear my entire house leaked from every single spot. And even when I went down there last week, it was still leaking. And this is a photo on the left here of one of my colleagues' homes. Not only has she got a gap that lets in the cold air, but it probably is also letting in mice, cockroaches, and dust. Right? So if you're not even going to do it for warmth, do it for all those other reasons. And it is relatively easy and cheap, and it is quite addictive. So once you've got weather stripping, a caulking gun, which is just you press it and the gloop comes out the other end, and expandable foam are your typical tools of the trade. And you can go around your house wherever you can feel cold, or you can use an incense stick. But if you can feel that air moving, chances are you want to block it up. Again, slight warning, if you have internal gas appliances without a flue, or you have a wood fire heater, they will be producing harmful gases that you don't want in your home. So if you plug up all the gaps, you could potentially be poisoning yourself. All the more reason to get off gas and get off wood fire heaters. There's probably a reason why I had asthma as a kid, because we had a wood fired heater and a gas stove. But if you don't have those, you can feel free to go out and plug up all the gaps around your house. So again, a few examples. Top left, the door snake on my door. My front door rattles, it faces west. The cold westerly wind, even though it's only quite a small gap, it comes under. The photo on the far right, I put brown stripping, which is barely visible, but it stops the rattle and it stops the wind coming in. It also stops the dust. For windows, even though I had relatively new windows, they also let the air in. So bottom left is a white rubber strip, and you only notice it when the window's up, and even then it's barely noticeable. When my bathroom fan kicked the dust and I had to buy a new unit, I got one that had the flappers. So the flappers rise up when you've got the fan on, and then when the fan's off, they close. So then my front bathroom, the air was just oozing in. So if you don't want to go to the expense of that, I always say with bathrooms, just keep the door closed, particularly in winter. So window coverings. On the left is what you don't want. When I built, roller blinds were all the rage, and they are pretty pathetic. Same as vertical blinds, because they let warm air fall down over the cold glass, you lose all your heat, and then you end up with a cold draft coming out the bottom. So what you want is a window covering that doesn't let warm air go down beside the glass and runs all the way to the either floor or is fitted neatly in around your window. So I couldn't find a good photo of curtains with a pelmet. And if you rent, for people with renting, for instance, a pelmet doesn't have to look ghastly and hideous like they used to when I was a kid. You can do perspex ones. You can even use cardboard or roll-up towels to block that air coming in from the top. You can also do plantation shutters. My mother-in-law decided plantation shutters would uplift her drab 1970s house, but they also make it great because when it's cold, she can close the louvers off and not have that warm air touching the windows. Or you can go with things like honeycomb blinds. And the advantage of them is you can go up or down, so they're good for privacy as well. And then when you do want to be warm or cool in summer, you can have them going all the way to the top and the bottom. The main thing is to have something that goes all the way to the edges and goes all the way to the top. So there's no gaps. Then we move on to floor coverings and room partitioning. So I have tiles in one area, which is great in summer because tiles absorb all the heat and they never increase in temperature. But in winter, that is not what you're after. So I went to one of the carpet suppliers and bought an end of roll quite cheaply, which is great for renters. Got it edged and then I put it on my tiles. And what that effectively means is when I've got a heater running, those tiles aren't absorbing the heat. And that carpet is also then warm to touch. If you wanted to in summer, I can roll that up. The dog can lie on the tiles and be perfectly happy. If you live in a really old home with timber flooring, like my parents' place, chances are you've got air coming up through the gaps in your floorboards. So my mum put a rug down and worked out why her room was suddenly warm. And it was because there was no more air coming up underneath the bed and everywhere else. So carpets provide a bit of insulation, even though they're quite thin. They do provide a little bit of insulation and draft protection. The middle photo is from one of our colleagues, Chris, and he was raving about how effective his curtain was. So what he's done is he had an opening, and now instead of having to heat a very large expanse, he only has to heat his kitchen and his living room. The heat's not going down the hallway to the other parts of the house. And this, I think, cost him all of $150. But you can see it goes all the way to the roof and all the way to the floor. And what's probably not obvious, but is he has tiles peeking out from underneath. So what he's done is by having that curtain, the heat in his room is not going over those tiles and getting absorbed. So he's isolated his tiles again. And then finally, who has a staircase in their house? If you live in a 2-story house, chances are you have a staircase. Most people have their living rooms downstairs and their bedrooms upstairs. So when you want to be warm in your living room, all that heat is potentially going up the stairs because hot air rises. So I couldn't find a photo, but if you Google, there are plenty of quite decent looking ceiling mounted curtain rails, and you can get them both straight and curved. So it is possible to put a curtain either preferably at the bottom of your stairs and again going from floor to ceiling, and that will stop the heat going upstairs. And then in summer, you could do the reverse, have it up the top so that the cold air doesn't, all pull to the one end of the house. And then finally, if money's short and you don't know where to start, consider just creating a warm refuge or snug. So look at one room. So maybe it's your home office, maybe it's the nursery. It might be one area where you want that one to spend your money is just one room. So you do the things that we've mentioned. You do the ceiling insulation. You look at potentially only just insulating those few external and internal walls. You do your gap and draft ceiling. You do the window coverings, and then the beauty of that is you only then need a very small appliance like air conditioner to keep that small room warm. And then finally, one of the banes of living in a house is managing condensation. So if you have people and pets, if you dry clothes indoors, have showers, cook or indoor plants, all of that will be releasing moisture into the air. And when the air is warm, that moisture will be in the air. And then at night, when that air cools down, particularly when it hits a glass window, it'll release that moisture, and then you will wake up in the morning with moisture on your windows. But it can also then happen to condense on, walls, back of furnishings. So if you want a warm and comfortable home, you have to look at managing your condensation. So exhaust fans are a must. And what I do with my bathrooms is in the daytime, I close the door, I open the window to really let that air out. And once I've had my shower, I put the exhaust fan on for quite a significant period of time to get that air out. Wiping down windows, I know it might sound tedious, but once you wipe the window down and put that cloth outside, you've effectively taken all that moisture and put it outside your house. If you just let it sit there when you put your air con on to warm up your house in the daytime, that moisture will go back into the air and then it will be back on your windows that night, and then potentially can grow mold. Dry clothes outside, and what I've started doing is my indoor plants have an outdoor winter because otherwise they're releasing more moisture into the air. So that is it from me for retrofits. There'll be opportunity for questions from me afterwards, but I'll hand over to Lexi, who is our energy efficiency and appliance guru.
Thank you, Sally, for a very informative presentation. So I'm going to talk a little bit about appliances, and a lot of this I learned the hard way. But when I first moved in with my wife, we played this lovely game of tug of war. So she would walk around in the house in a t-shirt in winter, have the aircon turned up to 26 and had it cranking all day long. I would come in and turn it off put an hoodie on and some Ugg boots and just sit in the cold. So guess who finally won that one when the $700 electricity bill rolled around? And with electricity prices going up and up and up, it's no longer an affordable exercise or a luxury to do those things. So we need to look at things that are going to keep us warm, but in a cost-effective way. So I thought I'd start by sharing with the first thing that comes to my mind when I think warm and efficient, and that's heating your body and not the room. Very obvious, but are we actually all doing it? So I think back to when I was a young kid and I had one of these fuddy-duddy electric blankets on my bed, but gosh darn did it work. And now the heated throw, look at that beautiful thing, has come along. This new piece of luxury where it's the younger, hipper sibling of the electric blanket, where you can take it on adventures around the house. It's dynamic. When I'm in a webinar working from home, you bet that thing is curled around me from here down. So it's perfect from working from home, movie nights on the couch, and also my kids love it by they put their clothes and their pajamas in there to warm them up before they pop them on. So it's one of our favourite things, the most used things in the house. Why do I love it? 4 cents per hour to run one of these things. It is so cost effective. So if you've got this going 6 hours a day, every single day for the 3 months of winter, 12 bucks it's going to you. So that's nothing. And you're probably not going to use it 6 hours a day. So you can probably say $6. And you know what? That's cheaper than my daily soy coffee at the moment. So that's pretty good. Choice has got a lovely electric blanket buyer's guide that shows you the things to look out for if you're looking to buy one of these, and it doesn't have to break the bank. You can get a great one for under $100. Choice is excellent for all of these great reviews. But there are some times when we're entertaining or we don't want to wear our hoodie around that we need to heat the room and not our body. So have a think about what you think is the most efficient way to heat the room. And we'll go through it now. So the way, and this is hopefully the only time I'll get technical, the way that we measure efficiency of heating is called a coefficient of performance. So basically, if you're putting 1 kilowatt of energy in, how much are you getting out in terms of heat? That's what it's called. It's a measure of efficiency. So a portable gas heater, for example, is one of the least efficient ways to heat your home. It's 0.7, so it's 70% efficient. So you're putting 1 kilowatt in of electricity and it's giving you 70% of heat out. So it's losing energy along the way, not very efficient. Your portable electric heater, for example, is 100% efficient. You put 1 kilowatt in, you get 1 kilowatt out. Contrast that with a ducted reverse cycle air conditioner, 300 to 500% efficiency. And then even better, a wall-mounted split system reverse cycle air conditioner. I'm not going to say that again. That is a mouthful. We'll call it wall splits. So they are the most efficient appliance that you can get to both heat and cool your home. So why have something that can just heat when with climate change, we need something that's going to do a really good job at cooling it. That's going to be our #1 priority moving forward. So that's a 400 to 600% efficiency. And the reason that these appliances are so efficient is because they're actually not generating heat like the other ones. They're actually moving it. So they're finding it out, it's finding it outside and it's moving that heat from the outside air into your home. So that's all it's doing. So that's why it's so efficient. And the other appliance that does that in your home is your refrigerator. So it's called heat pump technology. So if you're looking to upgrade, this is the most efficient appliance that you can get. So it is more efficient than ducted because ducted has losses along the way as it has to travel from other rooms. You're also heating a lot larger portions of the home. So in my mum's house, it's upstairs or downstairs, and that house is huge. And she might be in one room upstairs and it's heating the whole thing. So you can imagine the cost behind that. Wall splits, a lot cheaper to whack 4 or 5 of them across your house, and it just heats the room that you are in or that the people are in. So a lot more efficient. And that's why I've seen a lot of people that when their ducted reverse cycle air conditioner comes to its end of life, they last about 15 years tops. They're switching over to having lots of the wall-mounted split systems. So what about gas and wood heating? Sally touched on this a little bit earlier, but essentially gas heating is we're burning gas in our home, same as gas cooking. And when we do that, it's releasing poisonous gases. And that's why we've got to have them flued, or if it's unflued, like this one pictured here, we've got to have a window open, which kind of defeats the purpose of our draft proofing activities, right? If we're letting all that cold air in. But we have to because of how toxic those gases are. It's so bad that it's been linked to asthma, it's carcinogenic, strokes and heart disease, and cooking with gas in the home is responsible for 12% of childhood asthma. So I had this conversation with my mum, who we went to Bali together, and she was like, wow, my asthma, every time I go on a holiday, my asthma disappears. I wonder if it's because I'm not drinking, so much coffee or something ridiculous, whatever she said. And I said, Mum, it's because you're not cooking. You're not cooking with gas in the home. That's the number one reason why you've got this asthma. So she's since gone and replaced that with an induction stove, which we've got a little sampler of over there that you can borrow from the library for free if you want to try out that technology. Gas heating is the same. Wood heating. So medical studies show that there's actually no safe level of which to breathe wood smoke. So I'm going camping this weekend, and unfortunately no campfires for us. So that's why we're seeing a movement called electrification. This has really, really taken off in Australia, but also overseas, that as people's appliances, their gas appliances, reach end of life, they're switching to electric appliances. And this is also so that they can take advantage of the power of the sun as well. So they can run these appliances for free from their solar and battery systems. So there's a massive electrification movement going on, and we've got some action plans if you're interested in learning about that, whether you're a homeowner, a renter, or live in strata, with some information about how you can plan for that longer term transition. So some little hacks on how to get the most out of your wall splits. A few years ago, I thought my reverse cycle air conditioner just stopped working. There was nothing coming out of it. It wasn't heating. Turns out, hadn't cleaned the filters before. So I did that. It was like a brand new machine. I cannot emphasize enough what a difference this will make to your air conditioner. So all I did was YouTubed my brand of wall splits and just followed the instructions there and did a safe DIY. Hack number 2, the World Health Organization recommends setting your air conditioner to 18 to 20 degrees Celsius. That's the best hacking medium for health, comfort, and your hip pocket as well. So that's what they recommend. So not 26, like my wife. Don't do that. And if you do need to heat it higher, that's fine. Just know that every extra degree above 20 degrees adds 10% to your costs. So 25 degrees, that's an extra 50% is how much it's going to cost you. So just keep that in mind, and then maybe you won't have it on for as long, or maybe you'll reach for that wonderful throw rug. So another hack is actually using our ceiling fans in winter. Does anyone do this? So ceiling fans are so efficient, 1 cent per hour to run. So they're so cost effective, they're basically not even noticeable on your bill. So when I moved into my new home, 1960s, very inefficient home, one of the first things that I did was install ceiling fans, and they were on every day, all day through summer. They're incredible. So there's a little reverse mode on the remote or on a switch for some older fans as well. And this is basically what it does is hot air rises. We all know that. The reverse mode brings that hot air down as well. So that's a really, really simple way to get the most out of your air conditioner. I know that there are some renters online and in the room as well, and portable electric appliances may be your only option. But as I mentioned before, they're going to cost 5 times as much as a reverse cycle air conditioner. So they're hugely expensive, but in some cases we have no choice. We need to turn to these devices because we're freezing cold. So I would say choose electric and choose one of these options. I won't go through the pros and cons tonight because there's so much to go through, but I put a QR code and a link there to Choice Again, who does a great explainer, and you can read that and you'll find out which is the best for you, depending on, do you have little kids in the house that might be touching it? What space are you heating? Do you plan to have it on all night or just under your desk kind of thing? So just have a read of that, and then that can help you find the best option. So I'll talk about a few ways that we can reduce our energy costs, because that's the other thing. Our bills are going up and up and up. but most Australians actually aren't shopping around to get a better deal, and it's super easy to do. So you're probably overpaying if you're not doing this every single year. So shop around every tax time, shop around for a new energy plan as well, because all the retailers put their rates up in July, and they certainly did on the 1st of July this year. So after tax, make this the next way that you make a few $100s. Why not? It's the easiest money you'll ever make in about 30 minutes. So if you're super duper lazy and you want a solution that you can do in about 5-10 minutes, get out your latest electricity bill. Energy retailers are now, they're forced or mandated to tell you if they have a better plan and you're not on it. So all you need to do is navigate to that pink box there and it'll tell you whether you're on their best plan. And if you're not, call them up 5 minutes, say, put me on that better plan, please. That could save you about $100 or $200. I did it for my grandparents a few weeks ago. If you've got a little bit more time up your sleeve, this is what I do. So go to Energy Made Easy. It's an Australian government comparison website. You basically just fill out the form, follow the prompts, and it will spit out the cheapest energy plan for your household. And it will show you how much you will save compared to what you're on now. So I did this for one of my colleagues, Josh, a few weeks ago, $829 per year. Because he's just a busy dad, couple of kids, using a lot of energy, hasn't got time to shop around. $829 a year. Like that is, in half an hour, show me how you can make more money than that in half an hour. That's pretty good. So when you're doing this, my advice is to look for 3 things and in this order. The best thing you want to look for is your low kilowatt hour rates. What are you paying per kilowatt hour? Then look at the daily supply charge and make sure that's low as well. And then you can look at any sweeteners that they might give you. But know that if you're looking at the carrots and the incentives and the vouchers that they give you first, those disappear and then they jack up their prices. So we're always looking at those low rates and the low daily supply charge. If it says demand charge, run. Don't worry, just don't do it. And green power, if you want to earn brownie points with me, work on some green power on there. That's an Australian government accredited renewable energy. So you're actually supporting the development of new wind and solar farms in our country and getting 100% renewable energy. So that's a good thing that people living in rental homes can do to support and be part of the energy transition. There's a couple of little notes around there about flat rate versus time of use and what might be better for you. So if you're like my wife and you won't change your behaviour to when it's cheaper times a day, stick with a flat rate. But if you're happy to change your behaviour and the family can work together to set timers on the dishwasher and the washing machine, then consider a time of use tariff. So the other thing to think about is solar. It's a great way to reduce energy costs as well. So who here already has solar? 2 people, excellent. Who wants it? Cool. So solar can reduce your bills by about 40 to 50%. Really depends on how much you can change your behaviour. So you're running those appliances when the sun's shining, right? And it's free. The average payback at the moment is about 4 years. So that just keeps getting better and better as the solar is decreasing in price. And solar is actually so common in Australia that more people have solar on their roofs than they do a pool in their backyard. It is just blowing up, and Australia leads the world in solar installations. Here in Newcastle, we've got over 20,000 households that already have solar. So if you're interested in understanding, well, what size system you might need, how much that could cost for you, what your payback period is and what that could do to your bills, then I suggest using this QR code to go to a website called Sunspot. It's Australian government backed. It was developed by the University of New South Wales, and it can give you all of those estimates with the assurance that you won't be bombarded with sales calls after the end of it if you're not ready to go down that path yet. So I get a lot of calls here at council from community members who are interested in solar, but they say, oh, you know, it's still a high upfront cost, or I tried to look into it, but it's really complex and I'm overwhelmed by all the different options and what's a good panel or a bad panel or a good warranty or a bad warranty. And there's not a lot of trust in the industry as well due to some unsolicited marketing. So City of Newcastle is developing a solar and battery program for the community to help make it more affordable. We'll do all the hard work for you in selecting those products, selecting the hardware, making sure it's a fair price, really good quality hardware for your home and market leading warranties as well. And then backed by council, so there's that trust element, you know, that we've done all the vetting on your behalf. So we're hoping to have that one launched in September this year, and it'll be called Solar Together. So that'll be solar, batteries and EV chargers if you're interested in that as well. And then the new hot appliance is batteries. So if solar can get your battery about 45%, your bill 45% cheaper, a battery can do it all the way up to 80% and beyond if you want to do some fandangle stuff like join a virtual power plant. So on the 1st of July this year, the Australian government launched its Cheaper Home Batteries program, which is essentially a 30% discount of the upfront cost of your battery. So it's taken the payback period for a battery as being, oh, not great to being really good. So good, in fact, that this is the stat that I read the other day, 1,000 batteries are being installed every single day here in Australia since the 1st of July. So the numbers are unprecedented and totally unexpected that the government is having to look at, can they put more money into this because the batteries are just so popular. The other great thing about batteries as well is the blackout protection element. So that's really important. Heat waves can lead to more blackouts as well. So it's always good to have that blackout protection. And then there are other options that you can do, like joining a virtual power plant or playing in the wholesale market, which is a bit advanced for tonight, but it's something to talk about after if anyone's interested. You can actually earn additional income, and your bills will be in credit if you start playing in some of these new things. So you've learned a lot tonight. Hopefully you've learned something new. There's a lot of different tips there. And one of the questions we get is, well, where do we start for our home? So one of the things that you can do is get a home energy assessment. So this is basically where an accredited assessor, so an energy efficiency expert, a thermal envelope expert will come to your home. They'll do an audit and then they'll give you an action plan tailored to your home. They'll tell you exactly what you need to do, the low-hanging fruit and the longer-term actions, like, you know, when your gas heater reaches its end of life, they last about 10 years, then, you know, switch to electric and they'll tell you what type to get, heat pump or electric, for example. So they cost about $350 to $600. As always with quotes, get 3 quotes from local providers, and this is a great way to help you get a tailored plan for your home. So you can find local assessors through the QR code just there. And we actually have a program that we've joined at Newcastle for the renters and the landlords that are online or here in the room. So we've partnered with Race for 2030, RMIT University and the University of Technology Sydney on a research program to drive energy upgrades in rental properties. Some work that is desperately needed for rental properties here in Australia. So what we're doing here in Newcastle is, if you participate in a couple of research interviews, you'll get a free home energy assessment for the house that you are renting, or if you're a landlord, for that house that you're renting out. So valued about $500 and a $50 voucher as well for an additional sweetener. So then you'll get that tailored action plan. So if you are a renter or a landlord interested in this, I think we were doing about 24 in Newcastle, and there's a bunch happening in Melbourne as well. You can be the first to register your interest in that program. And we will share the slides as well, so you can get access to all these links. So in summary, heat your body. All splits are the best for heating and cooling, and they have a dehumidifier function as well. Dry mode, excellent in summer. Get a better energy bill. It's the easiest money you will ever make. Half an hour, do it. Power your home with the sun, and consider a home energy efficiency assessment if you're not sure where to start or what to do next to get that tailored plan. If you want to learn more about anything that we've spoken about tonight, we've got some great resources that are available in our Newcastle libraries for you to borrow. So that your home, we've got the hard copy book in our libraries, but it's also available freely online. So that's an Australian government resource, and it's full of information, and a lot of the presentation tonight was drawn from that document. There's also some great books about electrification and electric appliances as well. So they're available from the library, and the Facebook group, My Efficient Electric Home, is a wealth of knowledge. These are people that are electrifying their homes, their journey. Any question that you have, it's been asked in there and experts have responded. So definitely go there and search for information. And of course, please help yourselves to our action plans as well. So again, what Sally and I have spoken about tonight is all on the Your Warm Home action plan over there. And for those online, we'll drop it on into the chat later and send it through tomorrow. But it's the pink action plan. Everything we've spoken about tonight is on there. So you can actually go through and tick, okay, I want to look more into that. I want to put that on my list. Over there, we've got our home energy kits as well. So this is a new addition to Newcastle libraries, and they are so popular. We have a wait list that is over 40 weeks long. So we are going to get more of these into the libraries for you. We're going to shorten the period as well. So if you're interested in these, you can jump onto Newcastle Libraries catalogue, put your name down on the list in time for summer. But we'll get some more out as well. So the wait list, the wait time will shorten because they're very useful. And Sally gave a bunch of examples for how you can use them. And we've got the induction cooktop sampler as well. So they're great if you're renting and you've got gas cooking, not much you can do about that. You can get a portable induction cooktop if you've got asthma as well, or you want to make your home a little bit more healthier. And we do a range of programs and events. If you want to be the first to find out about them and about the Solar Together program as well, you can sign up to our Empowering Newcastle newsletter as well. That's all from me. I'll hand back to Debbie.
Thank you both to Lexi and Sally for those really informative presentations. So now Q&A. We've got a few questions online first, and Sally can answer them. The first question is, I don't think that you can put insulation on top of LED lights. That's the question.
And there was a second question there about
And then also,
won't insulation make your home hot in summer?
Yeah.
So over the LED lights. So the LED lights, and this is where insulation is one of those ones where it pays to either get a professional or very much make sure you've well and truly done your researching. So there are some downlights where you can put insulation over them that are rated to have the insulation up against them, but not over them. And then there are some where it's a definite no-no. So the issue for that is obviously you would need to get up in your roof, have a look at your LED downlight and be able to read it. You then need to Google what sort of downlight it is to work out whether you can abut or not abut. So that's why if you've got downlights of any sorts, that is very much when your insulation dilemma is becoming something where you want to be very professional. Because definitely with halogen downlights, they definitely do produce heat. So as you can see with downlights, they're a bit of a tricky bunch. So you want to do your research on that one. Because for LEDs, it can be either, it all depends on the actual fitting. In terms of, this is one my mum unfortunately mistakenly believes. She thinks that insulation will keep her house hot in summer. So insulation will stop the heat from the sun going through your roof and it'll make your roof space hot. But that insulation you have in your ceiling will stop that heat then penetrating through your house. My mum does have a point though, that when it is then cooler outside, in the evening, you actually then need to make some active effort to cool your house down. So you would need to either open the front door or open the windows so the breeze or the air can come in. Because obviously in her house with no ceiling insulation, obviously as soon as the sun goes down, all the hot air that's gotten into the house then all just goes back up through the ceiling. But obviously there's basically two reasons why you want to insulate your home in summer. One is to stop that heat coming in the first place. And then it also means that your air conditioner, if you're running one, runs less hard and you need a smaller machine. So yeah, once you have insulation in your roof in summer, it just means once it's cooler outside, open your doors and windows just to, let that cool breeze in.
thanks, Sally. We'll go to the audience. Any questions in person? And then there are some questions online as well. Yes.
We've looked into getting solar panels, got a fair few quotes, and we were wondering about the positioning of them. We've had a quote that has put them on each of the north, south, east, and west. So, and we've had other quotes that have just put them on the most one that's oriented. It's a pitch roof one's oriented mostly to the sun, so for us it's north,
Yep.
basically. And we're just thinking that possibly that's just over engineering, basically and so pumping up their revenue because they're selling more panels. So and I don't often see roofs with panels on all sides.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering.
In the beginning, when solar just started gaining popularity, it was north facing is best because it's the most likely to get the most sun during the day. Now what's happening is people are oversizing their solar systems because they want to get a battery in the future. So they're putting it on the east and west as well to take advantage of that morning and afternoon sun so they can fill their battery and basically get rid of their energy bills completely. So it really comes up to what your budget is, but I know that a lot of people are moving to maximize it and put solar on more than just their north facing. The other thing is too that you might not get much solar penetration with your pitched roofs on the north facing in the morning and then afternoon as well. So it means that it shortens the amount of daylight that you'll be generating solar and that you'll be able to use those appliances with energy from the sun during the day. Where if you put it on the other side, you're maximising that window in the day. So for me, it doesn't hit till about 9. But if I had it on the east, it would be a lot earlier that it would start hitting. So it just really depends on what your budget is.
So you're from out here on in with batteries coming in, you'll see more houses with panels.
People are going bigger. Yeah. So I think Sally, when she put her solar panels on 20 years ago, she put on a 1.4 kilowatt
1.5, and I spent big bucks on it.
kilowatt solar system. The average a few years ago was about 6.6 kilowatt hour. People aren't putting much on below 10 kilowatts now because they just want to maximise that and knowing they're going to get a battery. Now with this 30% discount, hardly anyone is going with solar only. People are going solar and battery and basically putting their sun all around the block basically, unless it's one of those rainy weeks.
Okay. And sorry, one last one.
Yeah.
What about south side? Is that?
Less needed.
Oh,
It's not.
What I would say though is what I would suggest is go on a sunspot tool and plug in what they're suggesting. There is also, once you go to more than 2 facades, you do need a slightly, like a certain inverter, because you now have some inverters are only capable of taking 2 strings. So not like 2 different facades. Once you have 3 or 4, you're complicating it. So I would definitely, I've got some quotes because my system died last week after 18 years. I've both used Sunspot to gain which ones, where do I want east, west, whatever, and it will tell me what my self-consumption profile looks like and the return on investment. And I would imagine if you plug that in for your house, it will give you an indication, even if you keep the same number of kilowatts, what's going to be the best orientation. But generally speaking, south facing is only when you either, if you're an industrial user and you need to basically have as much as possible, then you go on the south, or you're in heritage and you can't put them on certain facades, or you've got shading. And south is like your least worst option. But generally speaking, you don't see too many going on the south unless they've got a severe constraint.
Do you have multiple pitched roofs or just one?
Yes, multiple.
Multiple.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, so that's another thing is that one pitch can shade a portion of your solar as well. And with string inverters, when one is shaded, the whole array is not working optimally. It's working to the least optimal. And if it's completely shaded, that's nothing. So that's why they might have been putting them on other sides as well. So you're actually getting production when parts of your solar panels are shaded at different times. So I had to go through that process with one of my best friends. He's got 7 pitches on his roof, and at any point of the day, one of those solar panels or an array was going to be shaded. So he had to pay extra for micro inverters, which means that that string doesn't go down. Each panel is working efficiently on its own, essentially.
Thanks.
Yes.
In regards to that, you mentioned heritage areas have limitations where we can put the panels on. Where can we find them?
I will get back to you on that one.
Yes,
So if you want
because it's not easy to find any restrictions in those areas.
I think it would be in the LEP, in the local environmental plan.
Yeah, should be,
Heritage
but
planning, and it would be in the heritage guidelines in terms of, it will usually say what you can have forward of the house or what you can have visible from the street, and that would definitely be in the heritage control, the area that you know,
If-
set out in the.
Typically, it's not from the road. You can't be able to see it, so you'll have to look at the sides and the back.
well, which eliminates a lot of our areas, like the whole road.
But yeah, and like, unfortunately, every council's different. So there's variation between council.
Office.
But I can definitely,
Road.
I'll find that one out and I'll get back to you. And we've got another planning question here, online, which was, now I've lost it, but it was effectively, is indoor gas allowed in Newcastle? And then the second part of the question was, given that if gas is so contentious, why have we not banned it? And the second half was, but we've also, we've got provisions in there in relation to retrofits that require EV, like to future-proof for EV transitions. Did you want to do that one or do you want me to?
Yes, so in Newcastle, our development control plan has restrictions on appliances being installed in multi-dwellings, so medium to high density, but those restrictions are not in place for single properties at the moment. And then we also have requirements for those multi-dwelling properties to be EV ready as well, which essentially means, like the person online said, that they've got to have the infrastructure in place to be able to have EV charging capabilities in the future, because that it's incredibly difficult to retrofit that. So the challenge with banning gas on single dwellings, so when people are doing knockdown rebuilds, for example, is basically it's a challenge between the state SEP and then the local, the LEP as well, and then the DCP. So it's something that we're looking into as well, but don't have an answer on it now.
It's the state government. I can say
The
the
state
state
government.
government. And I did the DCP work with planners, and it's the state saying to councils, and it's New South Wales, because the National Construction Code has higher regulations than the state, that the state does not allow us to go higher than that. And that's why it's a guideline only.
Yeah.
Which is really, really disappointing. And it's what the city wants, and it's what many local governments around New South Wales are trying to introduce, but cannot actually ban because the state has a cap on where we can go. That great answer, but I think, I'm happy to say it.
Yeah, thank you.
Because I've said it many times.
Yep.
And then, Victoria is introducing it very soon. So statewide ban on gas in all new residential dwellings, and ACT is soon as well if they haven't already. So you're right, state and territory governments have that power to do it, unfortunately.
So are there any more questions online or in person? Otherwise, we might I'll pass back over to Debbie to formally wrap up.
Yep.
Q&A. So thank you all for coming today. We finished a bit early, which is good. Thank you to Sally and Lexi again for your informative presentations and your wealth of knowledge. And thank you all for being here tonight, and both in person and online. The recording of this presentation will be sent out tomorrow, and also the slides. And if you have an action plan, that would be really helpful for you. And then also online, you'll probably get that email to you as well. For those in person, feel free to stay and ask Lexi and Sally any more questions. And thanks again, everyone, for coming, and have a lovely night.
Thank you.
Professional Zoom. So feel free when you finish here. I think the catering's still out. We were very thrifty with our catering. So feel free